What's going on, everybody? So today we are back on Reddit to talk about a really interesting question that a lot of people have posed. And again, this is probably something that I want to run as a poll on my channel here, but I am very curious because this question is, what do you want to see most in the next update? I've been really enjoying doing these videos, connecting with the community, seeing where you all are at and what we actually want, because, well, we're at this point in the game where we're doing the same things. There's still a lot of content to be made, but obviously we're going to have an update upcoming here in a bit. And so I want to see where everyone is at. Now, this is pretty surprising. I'll go over the poll here on Reddit, and I'll do my own poll for the channel because Reddit typically is going to be the more hardcore, more in-depth players. And so I'm not surprised to see where these votes have gone. But at the same time, I don't think this reflects the majority of the community. Heck, even the polls on my channel, if I do one, isn't really going to be reflective of the majority of the community either, because most casual players don't watch YouTube. They just play the game. They don't really care. But here we go. Here's the results of that poll, guys. This is the questions. We had more legendary essences. Personally, this is like a kind of a given. I want to see this in every update, to be honest. Every single update should have more legendary essences. I think it's just kind of a staple and should be there pretty much always. A new zone / dungeon. Personally, I don't get very excited over this stuff. Storm Point came out. I spent about an hour in it, and I basically have never returned because the farming spot in that area isn't as good as Realm of Damnation, doesn't have any particular advantages, and the events are bugged, and then it's just the zone, right? So kind of mediocre. The new dungeon. Also, I spent a little bit of time in there and never gone back because it's a longer dungeon and I'd rather just do shorter dungeons, and it's kind of an inconvenient one. More events rewards. This is what I voted personally. I'm surprised that more people didn't vote this one, but I'm not surprised at the most voted, which we'll get to in just a second. More events and rewards. To me, they really need to amp up the events and make them exciting. Something like the Fractured Plane. And then if you couple that with massively increased rewards, well, now you have something really cool because, well, now it's worth doing the events. But also you could add an avenue of getting more residents for free-to-play players. As we went over in the previous video, the average seems to be around, for the grinders, 1K to 1,200. And then for the casual players, you're anywhere from 500 to 800 residents, which is really not that high in the grand scheme of things. So getting more rewards, more legendary crests, more rare crests, more ways to get gem power for free to play through events, I think is a great thing. And honestly, again, my most wanted thing. But I'm not surprised to see PvP here. Max voted. Again, these are the tryhard players. Improved / balanced PvP. I'll talk about this more in just a second because this is actually probably the most heavy topic. More legendary gems, the lowest voted. Not surprised to see this one. I personally don't think legendary gems are an interesting gameplay mechanic. Seeing more legendary gems does not get me excited, even if it's a really cool legendary gem. Like, personally, I really like Hellfire Fragment. I think it's a fun gem. I think it's interesting. It kind of combos well with the wizard build, but I have to upgrade it, and that's just annoying. And I'd rather just not see more legendary gems, to be honest. I don't really care about them. But improved / balanced PvP. Now, I think this is kind of broken up, at least what I'm thinking when someone wrote this. There's a few things that I'm thinking about. One, additional maps / additional areas of PvP, potentially like open world PvP, potentially like changing how it's balanced, 1v1 duels, 2v2 duels, something like that. Different game modes. Okay, that's the first thing I think of. The second thing I think of is bug fixes. Okay, so there's a ton of bugs in PvP still to this day. I did PvP again a ton since I swapped to wizard, and I'm seeing still invisible laser beams. I'm still seeing invisible pillars. I'm still seeing people being knocked through the map. I'm still seeing all these things since day one of launch. It's now been 8 months since then, and it's still happening. So, you know, it is what it is, but it's not acceptable. So that's the second thing I think of. And then the third thing is balancing the classes, right? Personally, for PvE, obviously you want your classes balanced because you want everyone to enjoy all the classes. But more so than not, balancing classes is for PvP more so than PvE. Why? Because if you have an unbalanced class in PvP, everyone gets mad and everyone gets frustrated, doesn't want to play the game mode. And that's kind of what happened with the Monk. And that was what was happening with Wizard and Necro. For a long time before the Monk, but now everyone's focus is on the Monk. Whereas classes like, for example, Barbarian, Crusader, even Demon Hunter have been left by the wayside a little bit for PvP, which has been a little unfortunate. So I do think that all of these are great things to add to the game, but I personally would say this is honestly one of the least important things to do, to be honest, for the majority of the player base. Again, not everyone participates in PvP. In fact, a small minority of people participate in PvP. Most often, the people that comment the most, the people that are most engaged with the community, and the people that grind the most are the ones that are doing PvP, okay? That's just what happens. So I know some people will be like, oh, but your comment section has a lot of people talk about PvP. 100%, because those are the people that are most dedicated to the game. That's absolutely correct. But the people that are not watching YouTube videos, the people that are not on Reddit, the people that are not checking out the news every day, those are the casual players. And to really hit home with those people, I think the biggest thing is more events/rewards. And I think that's going to be most helpful for the community. Again, let me know in the comment section down below what you think is the most important thing, because I think this is a very, very interesting topic, talking about the next update, since we did kind of miss out on an update recently, since they were on vacation for the Chinese New Year. Again, it's a NetEase Blizzard partnership, and so NetEase is basically, Chinese basically goes on vacation. China basically goes on vacation for a couple of weeks during the Chinese New Year. It's like a very important holiday for them, kind of like Christmas for USA, where people just disappear for 2 weeks. Kind of like Blizzard disappear for 2 weeks during December, right? Blizzard disappears for 2 weeks, and then NetEase disappears for 2 weeks, and we don't really get a whole lot of things going on in Diablo Immortal. But again, more events/rewards I think is the most important thing. Personally, that doesn't mean that these things are not important either, right? Improved balanced PvP is incredibly important for that minority that plays PvP, which also happens to be typically your highest spenders. So you do have to do this, even though it's not going to hit the majority of the community, it's going to hit the majority of your revenue people, right? So you do have to balance PvP 100%, and I think that would lend itself to a more inclusive kind of community, as well as a more interesting game mode, because I personally don't enjoy PvP either, because I do think that it's a pretty unbalanced, and also the bugs just make me mad, right? I don't want to play a game where my abilities don't function as properly, or I can't counterplay certain abilities because I can't see them, and I just have to make sure that I'm predicting where things are based on random factors in the game that I can't predict, right? I don't like that aspect, so I do think PvP does need some major overhaul. But if I go through the comment section on this Reddit post here, the poll is too limited. People oftentimes, throughout this whole poll, a lot of people, bug fixes, top priority. Again, over here, the top comment, bug fixes. And then people are joking about it, right? I do not want more gems is a common one, but people are like, I don't want more gems. Absolutely not. And then I've seen a couple comments here that I think is a little bit interesting. As a solo non-competitive player, new zones and stories the main draw for me. I also really appreciate the ability to customize my appearance, i.e. mix and match weapons and offhand separately, hide helmet/head, even on cosmetics. This is actually something that I think is really interesting as well. This is something that they mentioned that was coming to the game, but it's still not, is hide helmet slot. This is something that's also in a lot of MMORPGs. And again, most people are solo non-competitive players. This is the majority of the community right here, this right here. Therefore, they say new zones and story. That is probably true for a lot of people, but I think new events and the casual kind of experience is more important. And along with that, I do agree. Customizing appearance, mixing and matching weapons, mixing and matching certain gear sets, hiding helmet slots, maybe recolorization, all of those things are incredibly important for kind of the immersive experience that people enjoy, showing off their character, right? That's one of the main draws of MMOs in general. And again, Diablo Immortal is significantly different than the other Diablo games because you are in that MMO aspect. And so having this feature is going to be super important. Cross-class cosmetics. We've talked about this so many times, and I do think this is actually something that's really important. Again, and I'm not surprised that a lot of people hate the idea of new gems, but new game mechanics, new achievements. I prefer PvE. The community has spoken, improved / balance speed is the most sought out change to the game. I think the OP here agrees with the Reddit, right? But I think the Reddit is also a very small portion of the community. So while I do think, again, this should not be ignored. I'm not saying that at all. But we also have not really gotten any focus on events / rewards, right? If you look at since the beginning of the game, the events are basically the same, right? Hungry Moon was the first event, one of the first events added to the game. And guess what? We basically got a reskin of Hungry Moon ever since then. Even the event right now is basically Hungry Moon, but with like some luxury items added into that. And then of course the rewards are not very good. The Telluric Pearls is the biggest reward change that we've gotten. And that's, you know, several months or a couple, 2 to 5 months if you're doing all the events consistently to get your first 2 out of 5 stars. So again, that stuff hasn't really been addressed at all. So it's just crazy. It's crazy. But I will say, I don't even want to vote for one thing personally. I think PvP should be looked at. I think events should be looked at. I think more luxury essence should be looked at. I think new zones should be added. I think all of these should happen. But in my opinion, the priority goes like this: more events / rewards, make them interesting and fun. Then PvP, because again, these hit both the communities that we're looking for. The casual players, and then you have the hardcore grinders that really enjoy PvP, which should not be ignored. And then you have the new zones, new dungeons, more legendary essence, I think are a combo. You kind of should do both those at the same time. And then after that, you know, maybe warband activities / bug fixes, cosmetics. But I think bug fixes and cosmetic changes should just be done regardless of what change is happening. They're not super difficult, okay? Let's be honest here. It's not super difficult to fix bugs that have been in the game since 8. I shouldn't say it's not super difficult. What I'm saying is it shouldn't have been in the game for 8 months while we've continuously provided feedback. However, they have fixed a lot of bugs. I'm just surprised that they haven't fixed a lot of PvP bugs. That's the thing that I'm surprised about, which is a little unfortunate. Again, these are the most egregious ones, is I guess the more important thing too. But cosmetics, I mean, that's easy, right? Boom, cross class. It's probably just a flip of the switch in the code. Obviously, I'm not a coder myself, but let's be honest, right? They already have cross class cosmetics. I'm pretty sure they could just go in the code and change the class kind of uniques to just cross class across all classes. I don't think that's very difficult of a change. So I think that should happen probably immediately. But I think this was an interesting topic, guys. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Again, I'm going to be running a couple polls here for free-to-play Resident and talking about what do you guys want to see in the next update. So stay tuned. If you guys want to vote on it, be sure to check out the community tab, sub to the channel, guys. And I'll see you all tomorrow.